Welcome, kayak anglers. You are tuning into the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network, kayak fishing's best network of shows with great hosts covering all things kayak fishing, bringing you special guests covering topics such as shore fishing, river trips, gear reviews, angler profiles, tournament news, and more. Sit back, relax. Let's do this.
What is going on, everybody? I'm your host, Adam Pross, and I welcome you to the first episode of the third season of the River Run podcast. This is exciting. Always fun to be back here. It has been, it's a new year. We're starting in 2026. My guest tonight, George Verrusio, he will be coming on, talk some smallmouth, as this is quite a popular topic for the River Run podcast. But I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody, if you got some big New Year's resolutions, you're starting the new year off, power to you. I'm super excited for this year. I can't wait to get back out on the river. Now it'll be a couple of months before I actually get back out on the river. But to say the least, I'm really stoked about 2026. And I'm also excited to have, and I want to welcome to the podcast is the Achigan brand, the official brand of smallmouth bass. They're going to be tagging on for the third season. So no, this is cool. Welcome the Achigan brand and all those awesome guys. And I'm really excited to have you guys tag along because this is awesome. And I'm a huge fan of the only stuff I wear. So to the Achigan brand, you know where to find them. You know where to get their stuff. So yeah, definitely. And if you haven't checked out the Achigan brand, go check it out. One thing I did want to talk about is, wintertime is that time where I'm like, I don't know what to do because I can't fish. And I do a lot of tackle crafting, stuff like that, gear stuff, getting it ready, switching out line and whatnot. But if you're interested in reading, and I know YouTube's really popular. YouTube's like the cheat sheet these days. Like you just go on and you can Google it, and it'll give you a video of how to do this, that, and whatnot. But if you enjoy to read, I think I got 4 books here that are definitely worth checking out, and you probably have already heard of them. But this is like my Bible. This one right here. This is the In Fisherman's Bass, the handbook to strategies for smallmouth bass. This thing is like awesome. And it actually says Cornwall, Ontario in it, which I thought was kind of cool. But it just kind of it talks you through like everything, like anything you can think of to deal with the actual smallmouth bass, typical forages, classifications for rivers, you name it, pre-spawn, post-spawn, whatnot. If you're looking for something to read and interested, check it out. The In Fisherman's Guide, the handbook of strategies for a smallmouth bass. It's like my Bible. One that I really will always talk about, and I've really enjoyed reading, and I always go back and I'll look into it. And for anybody that's really interested in getting into river smallmouth fishing or just river fishing in general, um, the mighty smallmouth, catching big bass on small water. Adam Merrifield was a guest on season 1, and this book right here I would definitely suggest to anyone who is just interested in it. And if you're just a regular smallmouth nerd like myself, this is definitely a book worth checking out. Um, yeah, and Adam Merrifield is also a Canadian author, and somebody north of the border that is chasing, and he chases a lot of big smallmouth. So yeah, no, big shout out to you, Adam. Another one that I had here that I thought was really interesting is where the smallmouth lives, small stream fishing at its best. John J. Quick. John J. Quick, if you ever listen to this podcast and you'd like to come on, that would be really cool. I thought this book was really, I want to say it's like maybe 150 pages. But yeah, no, it's a great summary, and it's just storytelling of fishing streams, small streams for smallmouth. So if you like the first one, which was volume 1, well, he went and did it again. Mr. John J. Quick, Where Smallmouth Lives, the revelation of an old waiter. Some really cool stuff. In the back, he has a big 21.5 River Smalley right there. Anyways, if you're looking for stuff to read this winter and you maybe need a break from YouTube or just not to say that those are bad things, just if you want to kind of sit back, relax, grab some coffee or sit down with a bubbly. I love bubbly. These are some books that I would really suggest. Check them out. There's a lot of great sometimes you just got to go back and like reread it or relook at things, and you might just kind of understand maybe why certain things went that certain ways when you were out on the river or you were out fishing or you just kind of felt stumped on things. So yeah, no, check that stuff out. Also big news. Spotify. The River Run podcast is now on Spotify. This is like, the River Run podcast has been on Spotify, but it has its own page now. So you can go on the River Run, you can go on Spotify, go type in the River Run podcast, and you will find all of my season there. Now, you can also tag along just by commenting, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Also, you can follow, keep up to date. It'll let you know when new episodes come out. So every episode that you have now, you listen to, you can check out previous episodes and look forward to hearing newest episodes. Don't forget, of course, the River Run podcast streams live, always on YouTube. River Run Podcast channel. Check it out. It's the River Run Podcast TV. If you like what you're listening to, you like what you're watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're interested in joining the conversation, we do lives where we have such episodes like Down the Scuffer Hole, where it's a very interactive, fun way of doing it. But if you don't like to listen, you don't like to watch, but you want to listen, and you're driving or you're at work or you're doing whatnot, podcast in the morning with some coffee, just like a guy like me, Spotify. Check it out. The River Run podcast is on Spotify. So needless to say, I'd like to introduce my guest tonight. George Verrusio is joining the River Run podcast, and we're sitting down. George, how are you doing tonight?
Fabulous, Adam. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, because I always like to sit down and talk smallmouth fishing, and it just so happens that you are also another one who enjoys small streams and rivers for smallmouth. So yeah, George, I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of give them a little feedback on who you are, and yeah, we'll get to it.
Who I am? Ooh. Well, my name is George Verrusio. I live in central Indiana. I've lived in central Indiana for number of years now. I'm a real estate agent by trade. I am a fanatical smallmouth fisherman.
Okay. That's
I
awesome.
mean, it's just that simple. Here's how fanatical I am. I
All
went
right.
today.
And how did it go today?
4 fish, two measured, 2 didn't. Biggest was 17.
Now, I gotta ask you, what, like for me today, like it was a straight up snowstorm. Like you probably wouldn't want to be out on the river. It is, in the minuses. What is the weather like down in Indiana today?
Well, sunny, cloudy, kind of, little bit of wind. Air temperature started below freezing. It got above freezing about 11 o'clock. And I don't know if it made 40 or not, but it got close and maybe even got just barely over. Water temperature was 36.5 degrees today.
Now, how, like, just curious, like when you're waiting and you probably change your gear big time from what you wear in the summertime or to what you're wearing now. Like there's quite a difference in the water temperature. How do you prepare for that type of adventures in the wintertime? Because like at the same time, like it is kind of a risky should you fall into the water and you know I actually had somebody on last season, Travis Myers, and we spoke about winter smallmouth fishing. Something cold water was one of his big tactics out there, and we get into, and you see a lot of people too talking about just river safety, like Jeff Little, who's spent a lot of time talking the importance of dry suits and whatnot. So how do you prepare for getting out there on the river this time of year?
Oh, wow. I may be embarrassed to say that I don't think a whole lot about that. I just go.
That's okay. That's
You
awesome.
know,
Everybody's got
first
their
of all,
thing.
when I'm wading, I'm not wading big water.
Okay.
I mean, it's just not big water. Um, there's no place, if there's any place that's over my head, I don't know about it. And if it is over my head, it ain't much over my head. There's always a place to walk. It's not dangerous. At least it's not right now. The water's very low. Um, I certainly dress differently. I wet wade in the summer. I don't wear waders in the summer.
Yeah.
This time of year, I'm wearing waders, some kind of high-tech warm base layer under some, I don't know what they are, uh, fleece wading pants, sock liners, and alpaca wool socks. Uh, Usually 3 layers on top, sometimes 4. Today was only 3 layers. Um, but I don't feel, I don't, I'm close to home generally too, and close to the car. I don't get more than like a mile and a half from my car.
I've heard quite a few, like when I was just reading about waiting in the wintertime, and quite a few people kind of use the same guideline that they don't generally go more than a mile from their vehicle, just in the event that you might get soaked at that time. um I did want to ask you though, so your approach right now, like when you're getting out there, like you're trying to pick out location, do you generally scout? Is this kind of a spot that you've kind of come back to in the winter time, or is this just like one of those, I'm just gonna that I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go try that today.
Great question. Um, I don't go scouting water in the winter.
No.
There's no reason for me to scout water in the winter.
Hmm.
It's a that could be a frustrating endeavor. For me, it's really simple. If the fish were there late fall, they're probably there now. If they, I'm looking for the deepest water around. I'm looking for water where, well, if I can find it where the visibility isn't all the way to the bottom. Like, I fished a really small creek today and the visibility was ridiculous. And I had to make long casts, which is okay. I mean, I'm not saying I had to make long casts like it was some sort of, it was a troubling undertaking. It's just what I
Yeah.
got to do.
Mhm.
And generally, I'm going to find fish because they were there in October. They were there in November. They'll stay there.
Yeah, they kind of like hunker down in those wintering holes, I guess you could say.
I call them winter holes.
Yeah.
They have certain characteristics, uh, or seemingly so. Anyway, boy, I'll tell you what, it's just come to my attention that I don't know anything about fishing. I mean, I don't know why the fish ate today and didn't eat yesterday. Was it because I was using the right bait? I don't know. Was it because I was in the right place at the right time? I don't know.
Was it because of the moon phase that,
Yeah, was it the weather? I
yeah.
don't know. It
Did the
just today
wind
was,
blow east? Did it go
yeah,
west? Did an eagle cross your path today?
yeah. I can't get the fish to talk to me and tell
and
me.
yeah, I
But
don't think
anyway,
they read the same magazines we do or read the
so
same books.
especially in the winter,
No.
they get finicky in the winter. They don't eat as often. So
So
yeah,
when you're making your approach like today, like for instance, not like you don't have to share all the nits and bits to it, but when you get into like winter fishing this time of year, and it's low, is the water clear? Like, would you generally dial down your line size? Like, would you? Because I remember in 2023, you wrote an article in the Bassmaster Magazine, and it was probably like, I'll be honest, it's probably one of my favorite articles that I had read, if I could speak, sorry, read, and it was because it was like I love the Bassmaster. It's a great magazine. It loads of tournament fishing stuff. There's a lot of great fishermen and women too, and talks about the kayaks and whatnot. But it was cool to see one that was just so dialed down and just like like truly the bare minimum, the minimalist of an adventure. You know what I mean? Like even in when you were talking, like you named, I think there was like two rods. You had a handful of lures that you kind of pick from and whatnot. So when it comes to the winter time, you in that article you spoke about, you were generally running, I think it was like 8-pound mono or like 10-pound fluorocarbon, I think it was.
I have played around and played around and played around with different line in winter, and I continually come back to 8-pound mono.
I mean, and just curious, why is that? Like why, like for instance, like for like casting wise, like braid is like you can get really long casts with braid, and I'm sure with mono you probably can also. I'm just curious, 8-pound mono, like it is just because of the way it handles in the wintertime, like for temperature wise, like I'm curious to know that.
Um, okay, so first of all, when I wade, I don't ever fish braid.
No.
When I boat fish, when I'm floating, uh, with friends or one of the guides that I frequently fish with,
Yeah.
um, 98% of the time I'm fishing braid with a fluorocarbon leader. I don't do that when I wade. One of the reasons that I don't do that when I wade is if I have to break a bait off in a hole, retying a leader on is a pain in the neck. And fluorocarbon cut my hand a lot quicker than 8 or 10 pound mono or braid will cut my hand a lot quicker than 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon will. I generally don't wade when the air temperature is below 32. Occasionally I do, or I'll get caught out in a snowstorm. Braid holds water and freezes.
Okay.
Mono doesn't.
Yeah.
Fluorocarbon is wonderful in warmer conditions. My experience with it is it's stiffer and has more spool memory, and I'm not using a big reel. So you mentioned the way it handles in the cold. Yes, 8-pound mono does a great job in the cold.
Interesting.
6. I could probably use 6. I've used 6 in the past. I used to use 6 all the time. I like something just a little heavier now.
Nice. It's interesting though, because you do see that a lot, through online social media, whatnot. You see people are out there and braid. It's true, like it does hold water, and then you think cold temperature will, that probably decreases your casting, and also how that probably holds in the water at the same time, opposed to mono, which is not going to hold any water, absorb any of that water in it too. So on your adventure today, how do you and your approach, do you like in the wintertime, are you going with that more subtle jerk bait approach, you know what I mean, like to do the locating of fish, flukes, spy baits maybe, or you just kind of run the same program through, starting at the top water, move to the mid, and then feed the bottom if you have to, where I'm sure in the wintertime too they're probably holding close, feeding closer to the bottom. How was it for you?
First of all, if I get my preference, I'm fishing soft plastics. I don't care what time of year it is. There are other baits that I fish. I predominantly fish soft plastics. This time of year, while I might carry a jerk bait once in a while, that's probably the only thing that I'm carrying that's not soft plastic.
So you use more of a, let's say we're using more of a finesse approach to
today.
it. Yeah.
Today specifically, I fished 2 baits.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even bring anything else because I knew that I could catch fish on those 2 baits. One of them is a Ned rig, and the other one is a Kayak. I actually had 2 kinds of Kayaks with me today, but I only fished the Fat Impact.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's the Fat Swing Impact or something. I don't even know what they call this silly thing. And I generally am fishing in the winter, the bottom third of the water column or on the bottom. Slow roll a bait close to the bottom or on the bottom. Especially when the water temperature is 36.5 degrees.
Do you also, just out of curiosity, going back to the using mono, do you use mono also because it slows down, it's kind of slowing down the fall rate opposed to, fluorocarbon, which would generally sink a little quicker, braid, giving it added a little bit of extra moisture, in the cold water to sink quicker, where the mono might slow down the actual fall rate of that bait that's been making its way down to the bottom?
I'm not sure which falls quicker. And I'm not, and the bottom line is the real answer to your question is I'm not thinking about that.
Fair enough.
I mean, I would rather be able to cast comfortably and
Mhm.
not have to deal with a mess of line. One of the things that I do that um, one of the things that I do is I overfill my spools. I fish spinning gear, so I should
Yeah.
probably, as opposed to a bait caster,
Yeah.
I fish spinning reels, and I overfill them because I want every bit of casting distance that I can get. And especially in the winter when the line's cold and tends to be more stiff, and especially because of the way I'm working the bait on the bottom, picking it up, dropping it, picking it up, dropping it. The line tends to get a little bit of slack in it as it comes back to the spool. And it is so easy to get a mess coming off the spool.
Yeah.
With 8 pound mono, I just get less problems. So I don't really care if it's, if I could slow the fall down or if it's faster. I'm not sure which it is. Just for the record, and I'm probably wrong about this, my perception is baits fall faster on the 8 pound mono.
Hmm. Interesting.
That's my perception.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong.
No, I was just interested about that, just using that approach. It's funny you mentioned the mess of a spool, like when you like, because braid, I don't generally have those issues. I have had issues in the past with that mess of mono or even fluorocarbon on a reel, and it just
Hmm.
like it comes undone, and it can be the most frustrating thing because at that point you're having to you're trying to save it, and it's easy, much easier with um braid with fluorocarbon and mono to easily kink the line, you know what I mean, like opposed to braid, where braid generally you can kind of like snake it through. Yeah, that I can definitely relate to that. That is definitely a that can be a nightmare for sure. And it can in some ways kind of, I don't want to say ruin your trip, but you know what I mean? Like you're kind of you're stuck there with all this line, and especially when you're waiting, and I don't want to put that line into the river, and I'm usually jamming that back into my extra pockets, or you know what I mean? So yeah, it's I have had some luck with Sunline, supernatural, I think it is, in the 8 pound. I really like that mono. That is it handles actually really well on on a spinning reel, opposed to some others which I found it tends to come off in a mess. um and this is just putting it straight onto the reel, um not having to do the trick where you run it in the water and whatnot. It's very, and it casts actually impressive for mono, I would say.
I've found that line is particularly supple. Um, Unfortunately, I've also found that it's prone to abrasion.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
my experience with it.
Yeah,
And that I had problems with. I fished that line for a little bit. I was retying knots every 15 minutes.
yeah, I did have, I forget the other one that I had tried, and I went through, like I was breaking off really quick. Like it was getting to the point, and I just kind of,
Yeah,
and that, man, I try to have, like, I don't really need that much gear when I go, so I always take an extra spool with me, and it'll generally be either another a step up or a step down, something that I learned from your Bassmaster Magazine article, and That's super helpful. Instead of having to deal with all that, I just go boom. And I even do the same thing with bait casting. I'll always have an extra spool, just because if you get into those days where it all just blows up on you, and you're like, just the, let's say the second cast of your trip, and it's like easy, take it, do it, done, and I think that's a pretty handy tip that you gave out in that magazine. So I did want to talk to you though, going into, like, you're also a part of the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance. This is like, can you give me a little background on the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance? Like, what is this? What's the approach of the alliance?
Well, the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance is a conservation organization promoting. Wow! All of a sudden, my brain disengaged.
It's okay. It's only Monday.
Yeah, thanks. doesn't speak well for the rest of the week.
You'll just get through
We're
it.
doing, the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance is promoting conservation
Okay.
and of smallmouth bass through various sources. I'm not sure that's the right word. It's funny because I helped them write the mission statement, and now I can't remember it for the life of me, of course, since I've been put on the spot and people
That's
will hear
okay.
it. But we're basically doing the best we can to promote the conservation of smallmouth bass in the state of Indiana. The organization was active, oh gosh, back in the 90s and 2000s, and then sort of disbanded. And um, through the efforts of a few people, we resurrected it a couple of years ago. We worked and got nonprofit status. Um, you know, so we you mentioned when we were talking off air about the trash on
Yeah. Yeah.
on
No,
my
that's,
Instagram feed.
yeah.
That the Smallmouth Alliance, what do we call it? The Stream Steward Challenge. It's we hold a trash tournament. Who can pick up the most trash?
That's awesome.
And so that's one of the things we did. We had proposed some legislature um, to and one of the problems that we have here in Indiana is cast netting in small streams.
Really? Okay.
We have,
That's that like quite a problem in Indiana? Like, people actually are still do
in,
that.
in our area of Indiana, um,
Hmm.
there we've had problems with this, yeah, and especially in our small waters, because it's not just about smallmouth bass. It's not just about the nets, netting smallmouth bass. Generally, the people who are netting are keeping everything they find in their net. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter what it is, they're keeping it all.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't take much to really hurt the fish population
Oh, for
in
sure.
in a creek that's deepest hole is 5 feet and isn't any wider than a 4-lane highway. And that's where these folks like to go because it's easier to cast net. If it's 20 feet deep and the current's running 3 miles an hour, you're not going to do real well with a cast net. So they target these small waters, especially when they're shallow and there's just not a lot of current. And the problem is that they were from our perspective, the problem was that they're decimating the food source.
Oh, and
So
obviously,
unfortunately, we didn't get the law passed, but that's the kind of thing that the Alliance is trying to do. We've talked about water quality and erosion projects, and we're planning these things at this point in time.
so you can check out the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance, which is it has its own website, which is Indiana Smallmouth Alliance.org. So it's a nonprofit. So the mission here for the Indiana Smallmouth Foundation is rooted in our state's rivers, streams, and lakes. We are dedicated to preserving the smallmouth bass for future generations through education, conservation, and community involvement. That is the mission statement for the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance. And I think that's actually really cool because for me, I am huge about keeping our like the river cleanup challenge. I will push that to the end. I think there's many times whether you're wherever you are, you cross garbage that has been left by other human beings. And I think we can all do our part. And instead of, playing the blame game, I think instead we could just take the positive approach and just, if you're out there, it's really simple to just, grab. And I'm not saying, uh, every piece of trash that's out there, you should be reaching for. Be mindful of, maybe where you are fishing. But I do believe, it's really easy to, and that's one of the things that stuck out to me about your Instagram page is that, you have these like, I love seeing these shots of smallmouth, just all sorts of different sizes and then there's these great shots and it's just like people just trying to pass on that conservation and it's like I just believe like it's good karma, you know what I mean, like you're and I think in the same way I believe this and call me crazy but like I do believe that for every time we take the time to take care of our rivers give back to us and they give us the opportunity to go out and actually escape from whether it's the concrete jungle our daily life and sometimes we get even more rewarded being blessed by trophy fish that we can still see but it's cool to see all sizes because we know that there's a population that is flourishing in these rivers still and in these small streams. And I think as a conservation aspect and somebody who has children myself, I would like to see this sport still, going. I'd like to see kids. I love hearing about kids going fishing and getting involved. I love hearing stories of kids like my son who got all jacked up when he caught his first, PB20 this past summer and it was like to experience that and I just love hearing stories about that and so I really think it's neat that there's an actual alliance that's dedicated to the conservation and the education towards preserving the sport however you choose to approach smallmouth fishing whether it's in a kayak wading on a boat whatever it is and a canoe. No, that's really neat, and that's something uh, admirable to want to save the actual conservation of smallmouth. That's really neat.
I want to thank you on behalf of the members of the board of directors of the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance for doing quite a bit better job of promoting us than I did.
Well, to be honest with you, I had the website pulled up, so I was able to kind of go and check it out. But I know when you said your mission, I was just helping you out there. I know.
I truly appreciate that. My father is who started me fishing.
Very cool. I was going to ask you
The
about
earliest recollection of my life with my father is a fishing experience. And one of the things that my father always said to me, he said to me, whatever you do, wherever you go, when you leave it better than when you left.
Yeah, that is a very, very wise thing. And it's true. Like, it's why not leave it better than when you got there, and I don't know. I think we can all sit there and point fingers at, oh well, I know who it is, but it's like that's not going to get us any further. Like, if if we can actually go out and be, uh, positive, the positive change to it, and it's a problem that probably will never go away. But the more conservation education approach that we use to it, and like even a friend of mine, Chuck Earls, I would say he had the bread bag challenge. So, when you have a bag of, like, you could buy a white loaf or a whole wheat or whatever, and you bring that bag, save that bag. And so I was saving all these bags, and then when I was on the river, and if I had, let's say, there's a Gatorade bottle, whatnot, of my own, I could put it in there. Or what if I saw another box of worms, or another Bush Light, floating down the river, whatever it was, I could just throw it in there. And it's just little things like that. It takes one person, and it inspires others. And it's cool that you guys have a derby to, see who can collect the most trash. And I think, like, I wish more places would do this, because it really inspires people to take a hard look around at their own areas, because I think at the end of the day, yeah, it's like, you want to be able to leave that for, future generations, to continue it. And if we don't do anything now, we won't have that, for future generations. And at the end of the day, it's the river which will suffer the most, you know what I mean? And at the end, we won't have that amenity to actually go out there, and that peace of mind, because I'm sure, when you got into fishing, you know, and from when you started to where you are now, it is clearly quite a passion if you've spent all these years and you're still going out there, today, to just be a fanatic about smallmouth. And so I got to ask you though, do you remember what your first, like, smallmouth, like your first catch was? That like, was it always like, did you always go smallmouth fishing in the beginning, or was it kind of later in life you got the opportunity, or you just randomly you hook one, and next thing you know, you're like, oh, this is like the best fight of my life? So
I did not always smallmouth fish. I remember the first catch of my life. I remember it very clearly.
okay.
Um, my father took me fishing, and I caught two of the biggest fish I'd ever seen in my life. And I was ecstatic, and I was insistent about bringing them home to show my mother because they were so big.
Awesome.
And my father was less than enthused about this. And quite frankly, I very clearly remember noticing that he wasn't near as excited as I was about those big fish. And I didn't quite understand it. We brought both of those fish home in his cigarette pack.
Do you what kind of fish were they?
They were sunfish. They were
Very,
bluegills or
yeah, very
sunfish.
cool. That's very
Um,
childhood memory.
they were big to me.
Hey,
They
that's
were big to me. When I probably got bit by the small. Did you hear that? I
yeah.
saw
You
you.
got bit by the smallmouth, yeah.
I got bit by the smallmouth bug in college. I'm not. Oh, I can tell you how it happened.
Okay.
I had this dream of trout fishing, being on the stream with a fly
Yeah.
rod and this, the mountains and all this, it was just this sort of thing. And I realized I lived in Indiana. So I'm either moving someplace else or I'm
Got to
going to
head to
figure out what I do here. And the closest thing I could figure out to trout fishing on a stream in Indiana was chasing smallmouth bass and wading.
True.
I mean, literally, this was the thought process. So I knew very little about smallmouth bass. I got this book by Billy Westmoreland called Them Old Brown Bass. And I read it. And this was my indoctrination into smallmouth fishing. By the way, I still have that book.
Amazing.
And
I was talking about
Bill
books earlier.
autographed it for me at some point in time before he passed.
Wow.
So I started wading the creeks around Bloomington and chasing smallmouth bass and just driving out into the country without knowing anything about what I was doing. I mean, nothing. My first smallmouth rod was probably a 5'2" ultralight that had about as much backbone as a buggy whip. And a little
Yeah.
ultralight reel.
Yeah, yeah. Like a real,
And I
like
was
a
probably,
stroke rod.
throwing night crawlers and Mep
Yeah.
spinners. That's how I started.
That's so
Okay.
cool.
And I remember the first stream smallmouth that I caught. It was about 4 inches long. And it was the prettiest fish I had ever seen.
Yeah, some of them are just,
It
it's
was just
incredible.
gold and brown and had a red eye. And I was kind of just hooked. And it's been a passion of mine. It really got going in the mid '80s when I moved out to Putnam County, Indiana, which is about 15 minutes, 20 minutes west of where I live now.
Wow.
And I landed in all this water that was wadable and had smallmouth bass in it.
Heaven. Amazing.
And I ran into some kid who knew about one of the local creeks, and he took me fishing. This kid, he was a local kid. He didn't know what catch and release was. And the first time we went wading for smallmouth, I don't know if we kept all the smallmouth that we caught, but we kept enough of them. We brought them home and ate them, and I didn't feel good about it, okay? And when we got done with dinner, there was leftover fish. And I looked at those leftover fish, and all I could think about was we did not need to kill these fish. And if I fish with this kid again, we're releasing these fish. And, I don't want to say we had words about it because I don't want to make it sound like there was some sort of altercation.
No.
On the other hand, we had a discussion, and I remember him looking at me very clearly saying, well, if I don't keep them, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the kind of attitude back then, especially in rural areas. I mean, I remember wading creeks and seeing guys with stringers full of smallmouth they were taking home, and it broke my heart.
Yeah.
It still breaks my heart. The fact of the matter is this is a blood sport and there's fatalities.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts my heart. And every time I accidentally kill a fish, and it happens a couple of times a year.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it just happens.
Yeah, it does.
It just happens. I mean, I love these fish so much. Sometimes I wonder, do I just quit so I don't hurt them?
Yeah.
How does that work? So, yeah, I'm just kind of a nut about it. And the interesting thing is that It's combined with moving water.
Yeah.
I enjoy fishing for smallmouth in lakes. Exponentially more so in moving water.
Yeah, it's I like I'll be honest, like to catch, go to a lake and, catch smallmouth, it's fun. Running in some depth, and for me I'm just not I'm not taken by the electronics, and it doesn't excite me. For me to go out there and I don't know. I use the same approach as Indiana Jones. I'm just going for, a crusader of the Lost Ark, and I'm out there, and to be in moving water on that in the stream, river, and just letting the adventure take me and embracing it as it comes, and to be in the water with on that stealth mode, and working and working baits, and yeah, I don't, and then to just hook into a smallmouth, and to just have that thing kind of dance all the way around you, you know what I mean? Like just and just having that moment to actually like hold it and then just let it go and watch it majestically go back. And some can be, obviously I don't, to me, the size is doesn't matter whether it's, a small guy or a big guy. The excitement is still the same. Like it doesn't change. Size doesn't change it for me. It's the excitement of catching. And I just, like I said, I just like to, I let him go and I watch them go back, and it's so neat. And some of the places you find them, the least likely places sometimes can hold like absolute giants. And um but it's, it's fun too, going out there and just wading through. And I could walk for miles and just keep going and going and going, and very minimalist in the way that what I take and what I bring, and just get out there. And I have so much fun. And not to say that the lake stuff's not fun, but to, kind of look at a graph, that I enjoy looking at the scenery, and taking it all in, see what's going on around me, and using more of my my gut instinct, and at the same time using that approach of, you know what is the environment telling me, what's moving, what's going on here, understanding my gauges. And yeah, so I can definitely relate to that. um and then you carried it on, you know and you, to this day, you, like we were just talking earlier, like you still head out there. um and you had the opportunity in 2003, and this is the only article I've found, and I could be wrong. There might be more, but
They're older.
it's I would send them my way. I would love to read them. Which was waiting for stream smallmouth. That was quite a walkthrough of, tips and tricks, but also I just really like um this quick part here, and it says a veteran waiter walks anglers through his successful habits of this peaceful pursuit. And I can't think of a better a better way to describe it. It's not a, it's a very peaceful pursuit, as you're out there. What was it like to write that article? And I'm sure that probably took like, was that something you had done prior to this, writing articles for magazines and whatnot?
Yeah, back in the 90s, um, I wrote for some I don't know if you would even call them regional publications. I wrote some stuff and was published that were published in, I think there was a couple in Bassmaster and a couple of other magazines. I'm not sure if there was one in Fishing Facts. There may have been one in Fisherman back then, or it may have just been a piece of an article. That particular article that you are referring to was you want to call it co-authored by Don Worth.
Okay.
Don is a well-known outdoor writer. He is a member of the Fishing Hall of Fame. I don't know if it's the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame or the Fishing Hall of Fame, but he's there. He's been around forever. I've had the privilege of knowing Don for 30 years, fishing with Don. We've collaborated before.
And
so that polish, the raw information was all what I provided, and he provided the polish.
yeah, like you have some great shots, like even in that
the photography in that article.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that I do this right now. The photography in that article was done by Bryce Clendenning.
Okay.
Bryce did not get photo credit in the article, and it bothered Don and it bothered me, and Bryce was okay about it. He took some great photographs for that article. There are a couple of them that weren't his, like the one with the snake coming out of the bass.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that too. Like, I'll let you tell it here.
That one I actually took.
That's wild.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sitting there lipping a bass, taking a hook out of it, and I look at it and there's a snake coming out of its mouth. I mean, I'm sure that that my chin got wet because it fell into the creek when my mouth fell open and saw it. I was just blessed to have a camera with me at the time so I could take the picture.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that photo.
There you go.
There we go. So we have it here. Like, I remember when I got that magazine, I was going through it and I'm going, yeah, cool. Like, and then I remember stopping and being like, that's a legit snake. Looks like some sort of gardener snake or water snake or something that's coming out of
alive.
Amazing. And so he must have taken it and then taken your bait. It's for that thing to still be alive. Like, that is a mystery.
We've seen some really interesting things in the mouths of smallmouth. We found one with a chipmunk in it.
No, an actual chipmunk. I guess, I could. For people,
very clearly a chipmunk in the fish.
Would this be like a
one of my favorites?
Yeah.
Two bird legs coming out of its gullet. Yeah, this is real.
Now,
it was a very interesting spot on a high, I don't know, clay bank where the birds were burrowing into the bank, and I don't know what kind of birds they are. I'm a terrible naturalist, but I suspect that they were nesting there, and the babies had come out, and some of them had fallen into the water, and the bass had eaten them. And the interesting thing about it was, I threw this topwater bait there, and it hit the bank and fell right below it. And I jerked it really hard to pull it to get it to come under. And this fish just came up and ate it. And I caught the fish, took the bait out, looked at its gullet, and there's 2 bird legs sticking out of its throat. Smallmouth will eat anything. They are opportunistic feeders.
Well, and like just going back to the chipmunk here, was it are we talking like a full size chipmunk? Like, not that chipmunks are like, but like, was this like, would you presume would be like a mature, like an adult chipmunk that this thing had in?
So here's what we didn't actually see the chipmunk.
Okay, yeah.
We caught this fish, and its stomach was ridiculously bloated. I mean, it was just,
Wow.
it looked like a cartoon.
Wild.
And I thought, what is that? And I started feeling it. I mean, you could feel the tail, And I was with Chad Miller at the time, and we sort of looked at each other, and I looked at him and I said, that's a chipmunk.
Jesus.
It could be nothing else, because you're not going to feel the tail of a mouse. It was a chipmunk.
That's like, yeah.
There's some place, there are places where they throw mouse flies because these big trout eat mice.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't surprise me that a smallmouth will eat a chipmunk. They'll eat anything.
Yeah, given the opportunity, why not?
So I can't remember what the question. What was the question?
Oh, I think. Well, I'd asked regarding. I think it was the chipmunk there. If it was a full size, but you answered it. You can actually physically see it, but you just by assuming and holding it, and you could feel that this was more than a mouse. And when you think about it, if you think of like a mouse, whether it's running along the bank to come in or crossing a small stream, a chipmunk, there's nothing really there to stop it. And like a snake is, probably one of the most, for water snake, why not? Like if it's gonna go for it, and if it can take it quick, like.
I have watched big smallmouth track a snake across the water. I was standing on a bridge one day. I can't remember if I had to be scouting. I was probably out just looking around, scouting, see where to fish. And there was a 3.5 foot black snake cruising around on the water, and I watched 2 18, 19-inch smallmouth just staying below it, tracking it. I mean, literally, wherever that snake went, those smallmouth went with it.
And did they ever just come
Nope.
up? And no, they
never tried to eat it. But boy, they were really curious about it.
Oh, I bet they were.
Maybe it was too big for them. I don't know.
Like that's.
Maybe they were going to try to eat it by committee. I don't know.
Jesus. No, that's wild. I've never, and you got this, so you're lipping this fish, and out comes this snake, and you just take a photo of it. So what did the snake obviously hit the water? You put the fish back in the water. Did the fish did they just go opposite ways, or did that thing disappear again?
That was an ethical dilemma for me. Do I pull the snake out of the fish's mouth to free the snake, or do I allow the fish to keep what he caught. And I chose the latter. I just let the fish go with the snake in his mouth, and they got to figure out how that ended up.
Yeah, because like I was just thinking, like if you think of like, two smallmouth chasing a bait, or even, one that's hooked and another one trying to take that bait out of its mouth. I'd be interested to see how that would go under the water with a live snake in its mouth. You know what I mean? Like that would be some like, wow.
Have you
They
ever
might,
seen a baby duck go fast across the water?
yeah.
I have always wondered what a buzzbait imitated. And the moment I saw a baby duck fly across, not literally fly, but go very quickly
Yeah, quickly try to take off type of thing.
water, oh, that looks like a buzzbait.
Yeah, so true. That's funny you say that, because that's exactly when you said buzzbait. I was like, that's exactly what it looks like. It's buzzing across the top of the water.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Maybe and it's funny because like some of the rivers that I fish, uh, it's interesting in the fall watching all these beautiful ducks come down, and like
Mm.
the teals come in through, um and yeah, or even the geese, like all the geese, and you just think of like, but especially like these little like, ducks and going across the top of the surface. Yeah, it's like a buzz bait really at the end of the day. That's a that's a neat yeah, never would have thought of that. Such a it's nature's buzz bait, it's probably drives the fish crazy. Probably a reason why maybe that duck is actually doing that, you know what I mean? Like maybe it's sensing that there's something's not right, or somebody's already tried to, because I like, just like the chipmunk or a bird, I'm sure it wouldn't take much for a smallmouth to come and scoop up a duck a duckling real quick off the top up of the water. That would be quite the sight to see. Um, so from one podcaster to another, I always like talking. I for me, the River Run it's a podcast. It's really geared towards river fishing, and it's really a smallmouth podcast. But you also have one that's called Creekin Around. You've had certain guests on, like you've had, for instance, like Ryan Dahl on. You guys sat down and talked smallmouth fishing. Yeah, like what was the idea for starting a podcast? Like I really didn't have. I thought it'd be fun. Let's do a podcast, and here we are 3 seasons later. So
Oh, why did I start a podcast? Well, I thought there might be a need. I thought there might be a need.
that's cool. I think there's a great. I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and it always I'll listen to anything really that if you want to talk smallmouth bass. So for me it's
Yeah, I hear you.
yeah, it's always fun, and especially when you're talking about streams and rivers, small. I'm always like it's you know it's for me. That's my type of podcast. So are you coming out with another episode now in the winter time? What do like
Not you. Well, I haven't really thought about it yet because I think I had 2 weeks of downtime where I was going a little nuts and not fishing. But
okay,
that's the worst of it. I've been lucky and I've been getting out. The podcast is low on my priority list.
fair enough.
Um, Fishing's really high on my priority list, and then there's kind of a little bit of life that goes on. I'll probably end up with another episode or two as the winter goes on. just because that seems to be the natural evolution of the thing. I didn't really start that podcast with a vision, and then it sort of evolved. Um, and I don't ever expect it to be anything where I'm doing like weekly episodes or anything like that. On the other hand, I don't know. Uh,
Hey,
I'm working a lot less now. Maybe it will change.
I like your approach because I think if I was able to go out fishing, I would probably focus more on going out fishing. But where I am, um, it's it's not, the smallmouth is not open for me. But I think, you know, as like you said, it's one of those things for me where like I just like to sit down and talk smallmouth fishing with people. Like
Yeah.
I just sit down, have a conversation, kind of get to know other anglers out there, and it's fun having like seasoned veterans like you who have spent years and years on the small streams and rivers fishing for smallmouth, and watching that, um, for me, that's where I like to have guests like you to sit down and, kind of pick your brain about, why smallmouth fishing is, the way to go. It's interesting, and everybody kind of has their own approach. And waiting, was it like for waiting and whatnot? Like for me, it's one of those things I always like to get out and do, just to kind of the adventure of getting out there. Um, have you had like one memorable kind of like trip, or the one that kind of stands out recently? Like you said, you went out today and you're able to, kind of nail it down, but um, any others in, let's say, last year that were pretty memorable trips for you?
Oh, well, there are a couple, sure. Um, one of my best days waiting was, I like to talk about I have this theory, I call it the rain reset.
Okay.
Once I don't fish muddy water because I can't see the bottom, and high water is dangerous to wade. And if I can't see the bottom and the river's ripping, I'm not likely to get in it. So I've always thought that one of the best times to go fishing is, when the water finally starts to come down and it's like about 18 inches, 2 foot
Yeah.
visibility, and there's still some current moving around, because I think the fish feel really comfortable in that kind of a condition. So I went out and fished a rain reset one day, and I remember when it was. It was early fall 2020. I remember this specifically because it was my first season fishing a fluke.
Oh, okay.
Um, and I was just out fooling around. I really wasn't, I knew I wasn't, I was on a stretch of creek that I've had fun on before. It used to be a great stretch of creek, um, 30 years ago. It was a phenomenal stretch of creek 30 years ago. Saw one of the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen in my life in a small creek on this stretch 30 years ago. But it's turned into something more pedestrian.
Oh,
And I was throwing a buzzbait, and I threw it up in this riffle. I got hit. It was a 20.5-inch smallmouth. I threw it right back up in that riffle again. It got hit. It was a 20-inch smallmouth. I threw it back up in that riffle several times. Nothing happened. And I thought, let me try this fluke.
All right, the fluke. I like the fluke.
I threw the fluke up in there, got hit, 19-inch smallmouth. And I am literally standing in one place and all this is going on. I mean, I'm standing, I have not moved.
Awesome.
And I'm almost making the same cast. These fish were just stacked up in this spot feeding. And I stood there another 5 minutes and instead of at the end of the cast, about halfway back, I got another hit, another 20-inch smallmouth. And I ended up with 96 and a half inches that day.
Yeah.
Something, I mean, just for a wade on a small creek, that's just stupid. And I only caught 5 fish.
Rain reset,
And I only caught 5 fish. So I remember that very clearly. There was a Christmas Eve.
Oh.
Where it was a straight up winter wade, and I went out and I caught this really nice fish. It was 21 and a half inches. I can't remember how big it was. And I can't remember what it weighed. I do remember weighing it. I'm thinking it was like a little over 4 pounds.
That's a great fish right there.
Stud. It was just I mean, this is not 5 lanes wide.
Wow.
6 lanes wide at most.
Jeez.
And I was pretty happy about that because it was really it was a great Christmas present.
I just gonna say that would be a great Christmas present.
The story's not over.
Oh, I like that.
I chose that day to take some pictures and post those pictures on Instagram. I happened to go back up to that stretch. I don't know, 90 days later, approximately.
Okay.
Following March. And I caught one of the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught out of a creek in Indiana. It was like 4 3/4 pounds. It was pushing 22 inches. Unbelievable fish. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And it was within 100 feet of where I'd caught that other fish.
Ooh.
I took pictures of it and posted it on Instagram. And I don't know exactly when it was, but it was shortly thereafter that I get this phone call from this guy who I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Random.
Who I don't know. And to make the longer story a little shorter, the bottom line is, he says to me, "Do you realize that's the same fish you caught in December?"
No way.
And I said, "How in the world do you know that?" He said, "Look at the dorsal fin." That fish had a mottled dorsal fin, and it was very unique. Very unique. The fish had grown a little bit, and it had gained weight because it was a female. It was definitely the same fish.
That's neat. That is really cool.
Yeah. So when you talk about wades that I remember that were,
I like hearing these.
Truly remarkable. Oh, and by the way, that guy has turned out to be one of my best fishing buddies.
No, and is that how you guys met in the end? Like okay.
That is how we met.
No. That's cool. Well, obviously, like
that's
he's
my
like,
buddy Bryce that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Photography for that article. Yeah.
No, That's really cool, and that's neat though that he was able to like really look at the two.
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean,
you got a fan
you talk
following
about,
there.
okay, I'm sorry, Bryce, I love you. You talk about a smallmouth nerd. This guy is looking at my Instagram pictures, and he has the mental acumen to realize after 90 days that that's the same fish.
You got it's a fan following there. Like obviously, people will hollow with the.
So
That's unique, but that's
yeah,
cool that it came to a friendship that came out of that. You
yeah,
get a fishing buddy, and
yeah.
obviously, if you're catching big fish like that, it might be you might have a couple followers with you. Like people that
So
want to get out.
that there's your there. Those are the two stories that I'll tell you. I there are I have so many stories I could
Oh,
talk
I'm
about. I
sure.
could honestly, you said when we talked, you said you wanted the podcast to be an hour and a half, and I said I could sleepwalk through an hour and a half talking about smallmouth fishing.
I could too. I could too. Um, but no, like I think it's one of those things, like when you're passionate about, smallmouth, or you're just passionate about anything in general, like you'll sit there and you will talk about it. Like it's driven you, and like I've always said, when you're not fishing, you're usually talking about fishing. You know what I mean? And that's where I find the conversation is always great with, fellow smallmouth anglers like you, and just people that like to talk. I could probably get this. We could go on for hours. Like it'll literally go on for hours about this, that, and whatnot. But yeah, no, I definitely got to say that it's one of those things, and you probably do have, and you should probably write a book, if you ever have the time, write a book. It's one of those things, put it on paper. I'm sure people would love to hear your stories, reminiscent of the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance, director and treasurer, and podcaster, and at the same time, fishing fanatic. Now you say you use you like spinning gear. I'm a huge fan of spinning gear. To be
Mhm.
honest with you, spinning gear has been my favorite, and it's always my go-to. Just I don't know, for me it's just something that I can work baits easily with. You got like a preference for rods and whatnot, or do you kind of stick to?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I should probably say this too. I've become a fly fisherman. My
Awesome.
fly fishing is
You fly fish for smallmouth also?
yes,
Awesome. Very cool. I think
yes, I
that's really
do.
neat.
For me, fly fishing is another tool. It's almost to the point now where if I fish top water, I'd rather do it with a fly rod.
Oh, that's neat. That's
Yeah,
really neat.
it is.
Huh.
Um, and there are a few times a year when, especially when I'm out on the big river with a guide, that I'll strip a streamer.
Oh, okay.
But so I do that too. Do I gear? Yeah, there's gear I like. Um, you know, it's funny because I was talking to Bryce about this earlier today, and he mentioned some manufacturer who who I'd never heard of before, who makes really sensitive rods. And at the end of the conversation, he said, "Yeah, you probably have a hard time finding one you like." So here's my deal with smallmouth spinning rods. Okay, I want the tallest, lightest, stiffest rod I can find. And here's why. The taller the rod, the more line I can keep out of the water. The more line I keep out of the water, the better I'm in touch with the bait. Because I don't want the current moving my line. I want me moving my line,
Hmm.
except under the circumstance when I'm actually drifting a bait. And that's the whole purpose. So I don't fish anything under 7 foot. and I prefer 7.6. Now, the problem with a 7.6 rod is you can't hardly find a 7.6 rod that's medium action and extra fast. In fact, you can't find one. If you find one, you let me know. Medium action, extra fast. You find one, you let me know.
Yeah, because usually
They get that
7.6
tall and they can't make them extra fast. There's too much rod length to make it. They can make them fast.
I think years ago, wasn't it St. Croix Rods had a 7.6 medium?
St. Croix has a 7.6 medium fast that I fish.
Yeah.
It's their Legend Elite. I use that rod for big swim baits, and I use that rod for stuff that's, half ounce, 5/8 of an ounce,
Yeah.
3/8 of an ounce. I use that rod for bigger baits. It gives a little bit. I tend to whip a rod quickly. I've literally broken rods by using too heavy a bait on a medium extra fast rod
Yeah.
and snapped the tip. I snapped the tip off of my rod one day throwing a big swim bait. I probably took the top two guides off. I fished it all the way back to the car that way and caught fish. Another one of my favorite wading stories.
Okay. Always got time.
But pretty much, and I'm going to sound like an elitist snob when I say this, yet it is true. I am a blessed guy living a blessed life. I can afford good equipment. It's all I spend money on.
Yeah.
I don't spend money on cars. I got a 23-year-old car and a 30-year-old car in my driveway, and they run great.
Yeah.
I spend money on fishing gear, and for me, if it's not St. Croix or G. Loomis,
Yeah, they make fantastic rods, good
you
quality
know,
products.
again, I'm looking for something 7+ feet, medium, extra fast. I want backbone and sensitivity.
So, in your collection, would you have the would it be the 873 NRX? Is it 873? I think it is NRX rod.
Is it
Seven
873 or 872? Yes, I
eight.
have it.
Yeah, that.
Medium, extra fast,
Yeah,
7'3" JWR.
yeah, JWR.
Yeah, I have two of them.
That's like one of the most like ultimate smallmouth rods, you'd say.
They call it medium. It's really on the medium light side of medium.
Yeah,
It is my creek fishing rod.
yeah,
Unless I'm throwing a big swim bait, unless I literally have the idea that when I am getting in that creek, I'm going out and throwing big swim baits. That's the rod I use. I throw everything on that rod.
yeah. That's
It doesn't do. How shall I say this? It's the best winter rod ever been made
interesting.
because
Interesting.
it's so sensitive. It is by far the best winter rod ever made. I can't remember what the model number is. I throw a GLX as well. It's also, I think it's 7.4, 7.3, 7.5 medium extra fast. It's a fantastic rod,
That would,
and there's no comparison between them.
yeah, like and G Loomis makes, like I said, some
Yeah.
pretty impressive, sensitive rods.
So that's what I like for rods. I don't know why people don't like them. I have played around with a lot of different reels. I've played around with some really expensive reels. And my workhorse reel is a Lew's Hypermag 300.
Really, eh? You like the I've always been a fan. I actually have a Lew's spinning reel myself. I've had it for years. Years. And I'm still to this day take it out with me because and I've tried other reels. Like I said, the expensive ones too. And I've always gone back to this Lew's reel because it just works.
Yeah,
It's what's I don't know. I think in the end of the day, it's just what's comfortable in my hand, and and it doesn't. Not that any of the other ones weren't, but this one, it just I don't know. It just sticks.
for
So
its size, it's about as lightweight as you can possibly get. It's got a wide spool, so line memory is a little less than on a 200 or 2000 or
yeah,
2525. I used to use small reels. I mean, I used to use junk reels. I like these. These work pretty darn good. Those are my setups. Those are my go-to setups right now.
mm,
I like the IMX Pro. That's a pretty good rod for the
yeah,
bottom. That's,
yeah.
I've got. I think. I think that one is actually 7.6 medium extra fast. That's a great rod.
Would that be that would be like the 902? I think it is.
I think so.
Yeah, the 902. Because the other one is the 892 jig and worm, which is like I think it's a 7.5 extra fast medium.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
those.
Yeah,
If it's 7.5 and extra fast, that's what I want. I want
yeah,
the most sensitive rod I can get because I'm. You can talk to the people who have fished with me. I fish the bottom and I fish slow. Guys go nuts wading with me because I
yeah.
fish so slow. Yeah, they don't know how to react. And I mean, it's hard to. It's literally hard for most people to fish with me because I fish so slow.
You do generally fish by yourself then, or do
Yeah,
you? Yeah,
I do a
I
lot of fishing by myself when I wade.
yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, no, it's I definitely gotta say that uh when you're especially when you're using like I find when you're using finesse baits, the more sensitive the rod, but I'm a fan. I've always been a fan of longer rods. Like 7 foot is all my cutoff. When I'm waiting, like I've even gone to bring in like a 7'10" out there with me because I can just it just works. 7'6", 7'5". They don't make a lot of 7'5" spinning rods, so that's kind of a hard one. I know G Loomis makes one, but like even a 7'4", yeah, the longer the rod, the further I can, yeah, I can work these baits and um, but yeah, me the lighter, the sensitive, the way to go. But yeah, no. At the end of this, I just wanted to say, George, thank you so much for taking time to come on by the River Run podcast. As you were my first guest for season 3, which is always fun. Um, but yeah, no, if you want to let people know where they can find you, like I'll make sure to add all of the, your social feed. I'll include the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance. I'll include that waiting for smallmouth in small streams article link with that too. But yeah, let people know where they can find you.
My email address is george@bygeorge.com, and that's bygeorge.com.
Oh, cool.
Like buy a house.
So, well, you're the guy that's selling them, so.
My
More-
and
more
I
fishing
don't,
gear.
I have, for the moment, I have sort of extricated myself from social media.
Fair.
It got to the point where it was disturbing me more than I was enjoying it.
Well,
So I
it's
just
kinda
sort of
that
have
way.
taken a hiatus. So if anybody really wants to get a hold of me, I'd suggest they use that email address or call me. I don't care. Here's my phone number, 317-590-6811.
All right, there you go.
I'm a real estate agent. You Google me, you're going to find my phone number.
I
I'm
did
not
find that.
scared for the public to
Yeah,
have my phone number.
it's when I searched you up, I was like, oh, he's a real estate agent also, because it's like smallmouth photos, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, there's George. George is all
Yeah,
like cleaned up, he's not in the water. He doesn't have a
I'm
fishing
not
rod.
wearing waders or a
Yeah, I'm
fishing
like
suit.
this,
Yeah,
but this has to be him. This has to be him.
yeah.
No, George, like I said, thank you so much for stopping on by the River Run podcast. Like I said, if you got any questions for George, my guest, he's left you his phone number and an email. But head over to the Indiana Smallmouth Alliance. Check it out. You can also check out, if you haven't listened to some of his podcasts before, Creekin Around. I believe you can find that on Spotify and other streaming platforms. And if you are looking other places, George, like I said, check out the Waiting for Stream Smallmouth, the Bassmaster article. It is, just Google it. It's out there. Take a look into it. It is a great introduction to anybody who is interested in wading, or if you've been wading and you're just maybe like a good article this time of year. I'm sure lots of people have already read it, but yeah, no. I'm your host, Adam Pross. Thank you for everyone for stopping on by the River Run podcast, and we will see you again. And this is my episode with George Verrusio. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget, for future shows, like, follow, share, and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out our individual channels and accounts too. Want to be a guest on one of our shows and talk of adventures, gear, or products? Contact us. Thank you for watching The Noob Show with Matt Gibson, Chasing the Tide with Dustin Nichols, The Rusty Hook with John Rapp, The River Run with Adam Fraser Pross, May Contain Fishing with Daniel Woodcock, Chasing the 20s with Carlisle Esterly and Sean Lavery, Friday Night Bites with Brian Schiller. Thanks for tuning into the Paddle and Fin Network. Subscribe and always wear your PFD.